to do. I lifted up my eyes and saw Christ our Lord, not in heaven, but very high above me in the air, and he stretched forth his hand to me, and favored me in such a manner from that time, that I neither feared all the other people, nor were they able to do me any harm, even if they wished. This vision seemed at first to be without any fruit, but it has since done me a great deal of good, because I have come to understand what it meant. For shortly after I found myself placed in a very similar engagement, and I knew this vision was quite a figure and representation of the world. For all that is in it seems to carry with it weapons to injure our poor soul, as honors, riches, and pleasures, etc. It is clear that the soul gets caught in a net before she is aware. At least, all these things do their best to ensnare us. Nay, friends, kindred, and what amazes me more, even persons who are very virtuous. Afterwards I found myself so tied by them, they thinking in the meantime no harm was done by them, that I knew not how to defend myself, or what to do. O my God, if I could relate all the various kinds of troubles which I endured at this time, even after I had suffered what I had mentioned before, this would be sufficient to make one utterly abhor everything here below. For it was, I think, the greatest persecution that ever I had to endure. I sometimes found myself so straitened on all sides, that I only found a remedy in lifting up my eyes to heaven, and calling upon God. I remembered very well what I had seen in this vision, and it did me a great deal of good, towards making me not put confidence in any one, for no one is firm and stable but God. In all these great afflictions which God sent me, He always provided some person or other who might assist me, in His name, as He assured He would, and as He showed me in this last vision, without attaching myself to anything, but wishing only to please Him, and this has been sufficient to support the poor little degree of virtue I had in desiring to serve Him. Be Thou blessed for ever. Being once very unquiet and troubled, so as not to be able to recollect myself, and, moreover, being engaged in a battle and conflict, with my thoughts roving upon things not very perfect, and not seeming to myself to be so perfectly untied from all things as I used to be, when I saw myself so wicked, I began to be afraid lest the favors which our Lord had shown me might be illusions, and I remained in a very great obscurity. While I was in this affliction, our Lord began to speak to me, and bade me not to be thus disquieted, but as I found myself in my present state, I should thereby understand how great a misery I should be in if once He should depart from me, and that there was no security as long as we lived in this flesh of ours. I was also given to understand how well our labor was employed in this conflict and war, since these combats would merit so great a reward. Our Lord likewise seemed to pity those who lived in the world, adding, that I must not think He had forgotten me, that He would never leave me, but yet that I must still do my part. These words He spoke with great tenderness and affection, and many other words also His Majesty often addressed to me, showing great favour, and which I need not here relate. These He often spoke with great love. Thou shalt be mine, and I will be thine. And the words which I am always accustomed to say, and in my opinion I say them with sincerity, are these: What do I care, O Lord, for myself, but only for Thee? But these words and favours of His gave me excessive confusion when I remember what I am. Hence it seems, as I think I have often said, and sometimes say still to my confessor, there is more need of courage for receiving these high favours than for enduring even the greatest afflictions. When this happens, I almost forget my good works, and then I remember how wicked I am, without any discourse of the understanding. This also seems sometimes to be supernatural. Sometimes there came upon me such strong desires of receiving the most blessed sacrament, that I knew not how to express them properly. It happened one morning to rain so heavily, that it did not seem fit for me to go out of doors. However, when I was out, I was so far transported with this desire, that even though spears were set against my breast, methought I could have passed through them all, and how much more through water? As soon as I entered the church I was seized with a great rapture. It seemed as if the heavens were opened, and I saw there a throne which had been represented to me before, as I have told your reverence, and above that another throne, upon which I understood, in a way I cannot express, that the Almighty rested, although I saw Him not. This throne seemed to be supported by certain animals, and I considered whether they might not be the evangelists. But I neither saw how the throne was placed, nor who was sitting upon it, but only a very great multitude of angels were around it. These appeared to be much more beautiful than those others I had formerly seen in heaven. I have been thinking whether they were cherubim or seraphim, for they were very different from those others in glory, and they seemed to be all on fire. The glory which I felt in myself can neither be written nor described, nor is anyone able to conceive it, but only such as have been made partakers of it. I understand that whatever can possibly be desired was there united, and yet I saw nothing. They told me, though I know not who, that what I could do there was to understand that I could understand nothing, but that I might see the nothingness of all things in comparison with that. And it is true, my soul was afterwards confounded to observe that she was able to rest at all on anything created. And how much more to be affected by it, for everything seemed to me no more than an ant-hill. I communicated, and remained during the whole of the Mass, though I knew not how it could be so. The time seemed to me to be very short, and I wondered when the clock struck to find that I had been in the rapture for 2 hours. After this I was amazed to see how by approaching to this fire, which seemed to come from above, out of the true love of God, the old man of defects, and lukewarmness, and misery, seems to be consumed, for however much I desired and endeavored to procure it, though I was willing to annihilate myself for the purpose, yet it was not in my power to get the least spark thereof, but only when His Majesty is pleased to give it. As I have read of the phoenix, out of whose ashes when she is burnt another springs up, just so does a soul become quite another creature, with desires wholly different, and with a courage so great, that she seems not to be what she was before, but begins to walk with a new kind of purity in the way of our Lord. I was always beseeching His Majesty that this might prove to be so in my case, and that I might begin afresh to serve Him. He thus spoke to me: "Thou hast made a good comparison. See that thou forget not to endeavor always to be improving thyself." Being once in the same doubt, of which I have spoken above, whether these visions came from God, our Lord appeared to me and uttered these words with severity: "O ye sons of men, how long will ye be dull of heart?" He wished me to examine myself well on this point, whether I had wholly given up myself to Him or no, and that if I had given myself up and were His, I should believe He would not suffer me to perish. I was greatly afflicted when He uttered that exclamation, but He turned to me with much tenderness and affection, and told me that I must not afflict myself, that He knew well I would not fail to apply myself entirely to His service, and that He would also do what I desired. He was then pleased to bestow the particular favor I was begging of Him, saying, that I should consider the love which was daily increasing in me, for thereby I might perceive that the devil had no part in it, and that I must not think God would consent that the devil should have so much power over the souls of His servants as to be able to give me such a clearness of understanding, together with such a repose of mind as I possessed. He also made me understand, that since so many persons had told me that these visions came from God, I should do wrong if I did not believe them. As I was once reciting the creed of St. Athanasius, Qui cumque vult, I was given to understand the manner how there was only one God in 3 persons, and this in so clear a way that I was both comforted and amazed exceedingly. This did me a very great deal of good for increasing my knowledge concerning the greatness of God and His wonders. And now, when I think or speak of the Most Holy Trinity, it seems as if I knew something of the mystery, and this gives me great pleasure. On the feast of the Assumption of the Queen of Angels, our Blessed Lady, our Lord was pleased to do me this favor in a rapture, to represent to me her Assumption into heaven, together with the joy and solemnity with which she was received, and also the place she holds. I cannot describe what kind of a vision this was. The glory which my soul had, to see that hers is so great, was extreme, and I felt great effects and improvement from such a sight, and desired to suffer still greater afflictions here. It also increased my desire to serve Our Lady, seeing that her merit was so great. Being one day in a college of the Society of Jesus, and the fathers of that house then receiving the most blessed sacrament, I saw a very rich canopy over their heads, and this too several times. When other persons communicated, I did not see it.